Hi, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank British Council for inviting me to participate in this amazing event. It's the second day already, heading towards the end, but very, 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 very interesting topics and very important topics also to be discussed. And I'm very honored to be here. So thanks for the invitation, British Council, and thanks everyone who's here watching me and behind the computer sitting on their houses probably, or maybe commuting on the train. Thanks for being here, and I'm going to try to make this time as interesting as possible. So my idea today is to talk about critical pedagogy applied to the ELT and going a little bit deeper into what critical pedagogy is and how we can teach according to the principles of critical pedagogy. And in order to do that today, we are going to this plenary is going to be divided in 3 moments. First, we are going to take a look what's there already, because there are some aspects of ELT and communicative approach and the things that we learn in training courses, they're already aligned with critical pedagogy principles. We are going to see which ones, but also we are going to see what's not there and should be, and how can we make our practices in ELT more aligned to what Paulo Freire brought to the educational world. And of course, something practical for us to apply maybe on Monday when we start teaching after this event. And it's funny to mention that because I have been to many events, ELT events, presenting, participating, and we always have this somebody mentioned the cemetery of ideas. We get so many brilliant ideas in these events, and we keep them. And when we come back to the classroom on Monday, on the following working day after the conference, we simply leave these ideas there, resting in a cemetery. So let's try not to do it, and let's try actually to apply what we learned in these 2 days that are almost over in our teaching from Monday or the next working day on. And this is why I wanted to bring to this plenary something very, very practical and some ideas for us to start applying right away. So these are the 3 things that we are going to see in this plenary. And I want you to think about something. Think about the things that we learn in our training courses. Things like these techniques and practices. And I want to invite you to reflect, why do we do it? Because the trainer said is not an answer. Okay? This is not what we should be answering now. Why do we do these things? Why do we apply teach, test to our students when we are presenting something? Why do we elicit the answers instead of giving the answers to our students? Why do we run needs analysis activities and questionnaires before we develop the syllabus or the program or select the materials? Why do we ask our students, or why do we have activities that we use before reading, before listening, so our students can remember what they know about that topic before they listen or read about the topic? And why do we encourage so much pair work in our communicative classroom and so much peer correction? Think about your answers, and we come back to that in 1 second. Just bear those answers in mind. There is a very simple idea. That's not simple, but it's the basic idea of critical pedagogy that probably you heard about that already in this event when Chris Sultan's plenary, because he talked about banking education as well, which is not what critical pedagogy wants to be around, but it's how Paulo Freire and all the scholars behind critical pedagogy view the educational system before critical pedagogy. And why do they call banking education? You think about the bank, you go to a bank, you open an account, and then the account that you open, unfortunately, is empty. The account doesn't come with complimentary money. So the account is empty. And what we do, we deposit money in that account. So that's basically what the bank, how a bank works. And when critical pedagogy brings up banking education, they talk about as the learners are the empty accounts. So it's the idea that the learners sit there to absorb all the knowledge that the teacher has. And this knowledge is deposited by the only person who holds that knowledge, which is the teacher. Even if we think about the classroom disposition of chairs and desks in traditional education, you see that they are individual islands, right? One student after the other, they're not next to each other. So it's like this auditorium where the teacher is in the front and everybody's listening. And this model of education is pretty much criticized by critical pedagogy. And the alternative for that is the problem posing education, which confronts the banking education by first having active learners' involvement in the learning process. So learners have knowledge. Even if they don't know the subject that you're teaching, they have their own knowledge. They have their background. They have the life knowledge. They have the life experience. And this is knowledge that can be used and should be used in the classroom as part of the learning process. So it's not because learners didn't have access to the formal instruction of that subject. That doesn't mean that they don't know anything. And these shifts the tension of knowledge from the teacher to everybody that is in the classroom, the learners and also the teacher. And this puts the learner in the center of the learning process. And this is one of the biggest shifts. Again, thinking about the classroom disposition of chairs, for example, if you think about the more modern classrooms have at least a semicircle where the students are face each other. They don't only face the teacher. Pair work is easier to be made. If the classroom is not actually absolutely mingled and everybody is the same, there is no hierarchy in that disposition of chairs there, for example. So having this difference in mind, how learners' involvement is taken into consideration and how the learners are made the center of the learning process in the view of critical pedagogy. Let's revisit these practices that we have just seen. So we elicit answers instead of giving the answers. For example, if our learner have a question, we try to make the others answer to that question because we know that the others probably know the answer. If they don't, at least we tried to put them in the center. The same for teach task, which is a technique to teach. Instead of going into the classroom, taking for granted that nobody knows that, test what they know before. Then you teach what they don't know, and then you test again to see if they can. So we are taking the students' knowledge into consideration. We run needs analysis because we want the course to serve the students, not the curriculum. We want our course to meet our students' needs, not to have a checklist of things that should be taught in a course. Um, we have activities before listening, before reading, to make sure that the students, not to make sure, but to bring up the students' knowledge about the topic. First, because we know that they have some knowledge about that topic. And secondly, because they're going to process the text, either written text or spoken text. They're going to process that text from their perspective on, and not from the text to them. So it's them bringing their will to the text, not the text being deposited in their mind. And the same goes for peer correction, pair work, because we know how much they can learn from each other, because everybody in the classroom has knowledge to it. So this is what we already have in ELT that is aligned to what critical pedagogy, how critical pedagogy sees the learning process and the teaching. However, we are not in an ideal world, far from it, we know. And there's many things that in critical that is in ELT is not aligned to what critical pedagogy has to offer. And I'm going to start bringing this up with two quite important questions. Think about your answers, and maybe we can discuss that. Hopefully, we can discuss that in the end, in the question and answer moment. But is teaching neutral? It's not uncommon, unfortunately, to see teachers saying, I just teach English. And that means grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, and the skills. This is my role there. So I'm neutral. I don't want to bring this or that or those to the classroom. And also, what's the role of the teacher according to critical pedagogy? According to Paulo Freire, and this is taken from Pedagogy of the Oppressed, Pedagogia do Oprimido, and he says this: washing one's hand off the conflict between the powerful and the powerless means to side with the powerful, not to be neutral. And this comes from the idea that everything that we do is political. This means that if we see a moment, a person being violent to another person, and we don't stand up to that violence, we are letting the violence continue. That means that if we see powerless being oppressed by powerful and we do nothing, we are collaborating for that oppression to go on. So we are collaborating to the status quo. So when we teachers, we enter in the classroom, we open the book, or we just distribute the handout, or we get the material that is available to us, then we see that Black people are not there, LGBT people were not there, that the normal stand, the status quo standards are being reinforced there, and we do nothing. That means that we are maintaining that status quo. So this is what the duty of not being neutral means. Because according to critical pedagogy, the role of the teacher is to use education for social change. And this is simply because we are in the world that needs a lot of inclusion, respect, and acceptance. More and more, as we have seen in the latest years, how much inclusion, acceptance, and respect is not being there. And the role of the teacher, according to critical pedagogy, is to change that through education. And this is why there is no neutrality. This is why everything that we do is taking a side. So if we do something to change, what's going on, we are taking side. If we don't do anything, we are taking side as well. So one of the roles of the teacher, according to critical pedagogy, is use education, the classroom, as tool for social change. So education is not neutral. It is a political act, according to critical pedagogy. So the topics that are chosen, the pictures that are chosen to be used in the classroom, the films that are selected to be shown in primary education, this is all political. There is a reason for that. Um, and if we start teaching, if we start twisting the the way we teach in order to make our teaching more inclusive, more our teaching leading towards freedom, we can have social change and social justice through education. How? By empowering our learners. First, empowering them not only to spot and stand up against injustice, but empowering them to feel comfortable in their skin, to feel comfortable being who they are. Another quote from Paulo Freire is when he says that the role of the teacher is help the students to become who they are. And all of this is empowering, and all of this is forming critical citizens that have consciousness, which Paulo Freire called conscientização, which is building awareness of the status quo, of injustice, and of how we can change that. This is made through education. So critical pedagogy is not a set of practices. It's not a set of rules. It's a way to see education, it's a way to see the learner, and is a way to see the role of the teacher and of education. So this is something that we have to bear in mind. How do I teach critically? Well, first of all, by raising awareness of in yourself as a teacher, of the political role that we have in the classroom. And this is how we start seeing the changes happening. I'm going to bring now, as I promised in the beginning, the second part of this plenary, sorry, some activities, some hands-on activities that can inspire maybe, or that can actually be applied from Monday, 8 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning in your very first group, but also can inspire and make us think a little bit more about how we can apply these principles in our classroom. These activities have three main aims. Of course, a lot of subsidiary aims, but three main aims, which is acknowledge differences, bringing to the classroom different perspectives from those of our students, because these will help them understand that society, the world is much more than what they are. There are other perspectives, there are other people, and the differences are welcome. Something very important when you think about acknowledge differences is we are bringing to the classroom a much more accurate representation of the world out there, or maybe the world inside the classroom itself, because the classroom is not an island. And when we bring different perspectives, when we bring the different into the classroom, different from what our students have, we are actually not only broadening their view of the world, but we are also preventing further cases we might prevent further cases of bullying, for example, because bullying is one of the reasons, not the only one, is when the different comes and is not acknowledged and is not accepted and is made fun of. So this is one first step, for example, to start changing in situations of injustice. We are preparing your students not to be bullies. Of course, there are other reasons for bullying. That's not the only one. And some of these reasons, unfortunately, are bigger than our role as a teacher, but this is something that can help. Another goal of these activities that I'm going to show is to question the norm. And by norm, I mean what is considered normal. And by norm, I mean the status quo. So, what is a normal family according to the status quo? What is a normal person according to the status quo? What is a beautiful person or a good looking person, an attractive person according to the status quo? What is a successful person according to the status quo? And question all of this. Why do people that are white, young, thin, considered attractive? Why? Why is this the model that is reproduced all over the media? How fair, where does it come from? Or even why is heterosexuality the norm? Whereas we have so many other sexualities and so many other identities, they are not acknowledged as normal. So through teaching critically, we are helping your students to question these norms that the status quo will bring, and this will bring about changes in our students' perspective, and these will be passed on to society, their house, their way of living. And this is one of the ways to change, to bring about social justice and social change through education. And finally, the third goal of these activities is to develop empathy. When we bring the differences and when our students are in touch with the different, with things that are not considered normal by the status quo, they are going to put themselves in other people's shoes, and this will make this is empathy. This is it. This make her think that this is not fair because I understand what that person is feeling, or I empathize with that person, and this cannot go on happening. I need to change that. So all these activities, they are in various degrees. They are adapted. They are made from scratch. They are just a twist of the classroom activity. But all of these will bring up these three aspects that are important inside critical pedagogy. All right. Are you ready for some hands-on? Finally, right? So, a house. Nothing more common in any activity, in any material for ELT than a house, right? We can, of course, question types of houses, how many type of different houses are there in the world, in society, and why this is considered a norm. We can go very deep in this, or we can do something as simple as, after teaching vocabulary or grammar that is involved here, we can think about this. So now you know the name of the rooms, you know the furniture, you know the appliances, you know the places in the house. Now we are going to adapt this house for the following people to live in. An elderly citizen. So they need to think about the needs of an elderly citizen. Two flatmates. Two young people living together. What they don't need there. What they might need. A boy with special needs that is in a wheelchair. Look at those stairs. Look at the entrance of the house. Look where the kitchen is and where the bathroom is. So how much, and this can be done as well with city maps. Look at this city map. How accessible is that? What changes would you make? So this, because you're teaching directions. So this, what should happen here? So this is actually accessible to anyone. People that are in wheelchairs, people that are carrying baby trolleys, cyclists, accessible to everyone. What we should do to do it. We can also adapt this house to a man who lives alone with his cat, not his dog, cat, because cats are normally not in course books, but dogs are all around. I'm joking. And if we know our students well enough, we can, because we are the ones who know our students, we know how far we can go, right? This is up to us. It's not up to any course book, to any editor, to any author. We know what we can do because we know our students' background. So maybe you have a group that you can actually have a twist and say, adapt to a newly wed couple. Why not? Look at all the perspectives that we are bringing to the classroom when we do that. Look, all the questioning, why this isn't there, that we are bringing to the classroom. This is one activity that we can do with the house. Again, we can do with the city map. We can do with so many places, right? That we think about entertainment, like places in the city, go movies, um, pharmacy or drugstore, shopping center. We can use this and bring these perspectives in any place that we think about. This is an activity adapted. I shorten it a little bit because of space in the slide. I'm sorry. But this is taken from 5-minute activities from Jill Hadfield. And this is an activity that says, I am you. So I have these sentences. And I need to complete the sentences, not with my information, but with the information of the person next to you. Can I ask this person? No. I need to look at the person and complete this sentences as I think the person, the other, my classmate would complete. So by looking at me, what do you say? What color do you think I like and why I like that color? What do you think that my favorite time of the day is? What do you think that I used to do or I used to have at school? And then after doing this, so you're making your students put themselves in other people's shoes. And then there is another twist that is brilliant about this activity. And I'm just say that I adapted it just because I shortened it, because that was the goal of Jill Hadfield since the beginning. And then I asked my classmate the right answers. And now I can see how much I judge by appearance. So there are two very interesting processes going in a student's mind and body and intellect when we do this activity. First, I need to put myself in another person's shoes. Then I need to question my guesses. How do I even think that you could like this, could like this or dislike that, just by looking at you? So how much judgment have I made? And how much do I do that with the outside world? So this is I think it's one of a very brilliant activity, if very brilliant can be said. And of course, there is a long list. This can be used as icebreaker, for example. This can be used as a wrap up at the end of the course. This can be used in the middle of the course. But as we can see, this is not a set of rules that we should follow in order to teach critically. It's the way we see teaching and learning, the way we see the role of the learner and the role of the teacher. Next activity, I love this one. This one is adapted I adapted myself from a website that is called Teach Empathy. I just got the idea of the activity, and I adapted to groups that I think should be discussed. But in the website, it was more teaching empathy for children, so it has like different sentences to be matched. But the idea of the activities, I have these three groups, okay, or these people, these four people here. So I have a black man, I have a same sex couple, and I have a woman that is not exactly in the beauty standards of the status quo because she's chubby. And the black man as well is not in that normality because black's not taken as normal, right? And his hair is very much connected with his ethnicity, and this is not very well seen. That's why I chose that picture. Not well seen by status quo, please bear that in mind. Um, and of course, the same-sex couple is not seen as normal by the status quo. It's not the traditional family that we see. So we get these people, and our students have to match. Which sentence do you think would be offensive or hurtful to which people and why? I'm going to give you some seconds to think about that. So 10 seconds for you to read and briefly think, and then we do this activity together. Of course, you can bring your ideas to the question and answer. Okay? Well, as this is recorded, I don't know if it's okay or not, but we are going to go on. So are you sure you can walk there? And what's interesting about this activity, and we might discuss that it would be interesting to discuss that in question and answer, because it depends on who's doing this activity. We'll have different answers. For me, as a chubby girl, this is offensive for the chubby lady. But I have presented this activity to other groups, and a black participant said, "Well, this is can be offensive for the black man because you might think that that place is not safe for black people. So are you sure you can walk there? This is so it's a matter of permission and uh, ability." Capacity. So you see how much perspectives we can have in an activity like this. Letter B, but you don't look black. Or we can change, you don't look gay. What does it mean, right? How does a person question how the other person identifies, and why this hurts? Because you are erasing the person's identity. You are erasing who when we say that, we are erasing who the person is. This is not for your body type. If I had a dime every time I heard that, because I'm a chubby lady and I want to wear type of clothing, this is not for your body type. For example, a bikini. No, you shouldn't wear a bikini. Why not? Right? Why this is offensive? What can it cause? Uh, letter D. You're rational like a man. Again, when I solve this, I think this is offensive for the woman because I've heard that more often than not, unfortunately, as a compliment. Yeah, I know. Um, but another moment that I present that to an audience, I will say that this can be offensive for a gay man, for example. You're rational like a man, but I am a man. You see how the perspective changes? I had never thought about that. And I would never have thought, hadn't the person pointed that out to me, because I'm not in that group. So you see how it happens to us. Can you see this process happening to students? And then we have, at least you're not flamboyant, definitely for the gay couple or for the gay man, but it can be for women as well. You're chubby, but at least you're not flamboyant. You keep hiding at least. Letter G. I wrote that thinking about the afro hair. And But somebody pointed out about the ladies, the cartoon lady hair, which is flamboyant as well. It's big, it's bold. Was it easy to get a job with that hair? Uh, Letter H definitely goes for the gay couple, and but you are made to have babies. Again, to me, that's offensive for women because we get that a lot. I don't want children. I don't have children. I don't want children. And I get that, but you are made to have babies. Your body, your biology. I don't care what my biology says. I don't want. But then somebody pointed out that how offensive this can be as well for a same-sex couple, because theoretically, same-sex couple cannot have babies. So you see, that's why I wanted to go through all the alternatives with you to show my perspective and the perspectives that other people have shown me when I presented that. So this is an activity that we can personalize the way we want with our students. And if you're interested in more activities like this, you can go to teachingempathy.com and see how many activities and ideas they have there. Again, for children, but we can easily adapt for adults if we don't teach children. I would love to listen to your ideas about these activities in the question and answer. All right. Moving on to the last activity, a family tree. How often have you seen a family tree in materials that we use in course books? I myself have used The Simpsons, these family tree, because it's much more complete. You have uncle, you have grandfather, grandmother, and you have like cousins. So it's much more complete Simpsons family. And I found in the beginning when I started teaching, I found this a little bit more inclusive because you have Selma that has an adopted baby, and they are not white, they are yellow. They are cartoons, they're not people, but still very heterosexual family, heteronormative family, right? With time, if you know The Simpsons, Selma came out as LGBT, so as a lesbian, but still, I mean, it's a heteronormative family. And you have that, and you use that family tree, which is fine, to teach family members. But then, what we can do in order to raise awareness, in order to promote conscientização, which is the consciousness that Paulo Freire mentioned so often. How similar is your family to The Simpsons? And how many variations of family can you think of? And you can go further. Why is this family a standard? Why is this family considered normal? Although The Simpsons are not very normal, but you know what I mean. And these type of questioning can go to so many other aspects, not only um, family trees. For example, jobs. When we think about jobs, when we learn about jobs in a ELT classroom, normally we have jobs like engineer, doctor, sometimes astronaut, and rock star or even teacher. Although we are rock stars, they put them separately. I don't know why, because we should be together, right? But if we question the reality of our students and how many of these professions do they actually encounter every day, how many of our students actually know people who have those professions? So we can question that, like, okay, these are the jobs, let's learn them because they're going to be in the exam, but which of these do you have in your daily life? Which ones from your daily life are not here? Why? Why are these professions here and the ones that we encounter in our daily life are not? Bus driver, taxi driver, doorman, cleaning person. Why they are not there? Why are some jobs considered more valuable than others? And we can go so deep in this type of questioning. And of course we need some preparation, and not material preparation, not lesson preparation, but um, ideas preparation, thoughts preparation to deal with the discussion. But we can go very deep, and by going deep as these questions, we actually are preparing, as I said before, are preparing students to look outside the window of our classroom and see the world with different perspective. See the way the world is, not white, not heterosexual, not young, not thin, and spot the injustice that there is outside the window. And more often than not, our students will have faced or will be facing some type of injustice. And then we are acknowledging and accepting and these, not accepting, but understanding this injustice that they are suffering. And we are telling them, hey, you're not alone. Hey, you can do something about it. And by doing that, we first are making their classroom a very, very, very safe environment for our students if they are part of any of the oppressed groups. And secondly, we are acknowledging their voices. We are acknowledging their existence. We are helping them, as Paulo Freire said, we are helping them to become who they are. And if we don't do that, this is even more problematic. If we actually don't acknowledge our students' voices the way critical pedagogy um, thinks we teachers should acknowledge. When we don't acknowledge student voices, when we don't recognize who our student, we don't accept and recognize and embrace who our students are in our classroom, they may lose their desire to learn not only the language or any type of subject we are teaching, and they may even engage in resistance. And I think Jane Pryor was very, very light in this passive resistance or active resistance to classroom practices, curriculum demand, subject matter, and so many other things. So there are pedagogical reasons as well for us to make the classroom, the students' classroom, not our classroom, and to put our students, their voices, and who they are in the center of the learning process. And as I said before, critical pedagogy is not a set of rules, is the lenses through which we see our role as a teacher, the role of education, the classroom, the role and the importance of the students. And I think even if you cannot use any of these activities on Monday morning for your very first lesson, at least if you can see your practices, if we can see your practices, if we can see your classroom through these lenses, huge progress has been made. I hope you all liked it. I hope it was useful for you, the things that I have said. I'm going to share my references with you. It's very, very important things if we want to teach critically and go deeper in critical pedagogy. We have to look for formation in that area, and these are very interesting books. And also, this will help prepare us to deal with these lenses that we want to. Okay? I hope you all enjoyed. And if you want, I'll be glad to make this presentation available if you want. And see you in 10 seconds to discuss the question and answers, the questions that you have, and discuss the answers that you might have for the activities and for some questions that I have posed in this plenary. Okay, thank you very much for coming, for watching. Thanks again, British Council, for the opportunity. And it's an honor to be discussing such important topics in such a brilliant conference. Thank you very much, everyone.